Hello and welcome to Storybridge. I'm your host, Patti Lucia. I'm a teacher and author, and I'd like to help you use the power of story for personal growth. Every week I share stories related to the commemorative days of the month, or I share musings on the power of story. In the following episode, I talk about how metaphor shapes our thoughts, words, and actions. In their book, Metaphors We Live By, George Lakoff and Mark Johnson posit that humans use metaphor to conceptualize our world. This behavior is so natural we are generally unaware of it, but understanding fundamental aspects of our experience, like time and love, through the lens of metaphor determines how we talk, think, and act. If this is true, these metaphoric lenses direct our very lives. I like to think of metaphor as the story within the story. We have our stories, the stories of our lives, and within those stories are the metaphors through which we understand our lives and live our lives. So metaphor turns out to be much more than some literary device that makes what we are reading so much more engaging. Metaphors are at the very center of our lives. They are both compass and container. We would like to believe we choose our own metaphors for such important parts of our lives, like time and love. But the metaphors we live by are chosen for us by the culture and society in which we are born. To understand how central a function metaphor plays in our lives, let us first consider the power of language. Language organizes and directs the way we think. We have words by which to understand our world. There is a vast difference between our associations with the word human, for instance, and the word cockroach. These associations determine our behavior towards humans and cockroaches. Think for a moment about your own associations with the word human. What pictures appear in your mind? Now think about your associations with the word cockroach. What pictures appear in your mind? When thinking about the word human, did you see yourself interacting with another human? Perhaps humans you know. When thinking about the word cockroach, did you see yourself interacting with a cockroach? What was the difference between these scenes? You may have seen yourself interacting with family members on the one hand, sharing a meal, laughter, making love, or even arguing. In contrast, you may have seen yourself raising your foot to stomp out the other, to smash it, to kill it, to rid your surroundings of it. People often wonder how an entire country sent so many people to their deaths in World War II. How could the people have allowed this? Had they all lost their minds? The march toward genocide begins with the poisoning of our language and the perversion of our metaphors. Most people are unaware that as their language is being altered, so are their thoughts and ultimately their actions. Those who ultimately were sent to the death camps were no longer seen as human, but as vermin, as cockroaches. The story was changed and repeated in newspapers and radio, reinforced in cultural institutions until the people saw a whole segment of their culture not as humans, but as cockroaches that needed to be exterminated. In fact, extermination was not an abhorrent word because it is associated with cockroaches. Extermination is only abhorrent when associated with humans. The same process was played out in Rwanda in 1994. The Tutsis were referred to as cockroaches over national radio and papers. The association was repeated over and over until the metaphoric lens of the people was perverted. The natural change in behavior was to enthusiastically exterminate the vermin. They were no longer seen as human. Franz Kafka's haunting book, Metamorphosis, illustrates this transformation. A young man, Gregor Samsa, goes to bed very much a human, but wakes up having transformed into a cockroach. As the day goes on, he struggles to communicate with his family as they plot to kill and dispose of him, despite having loved him the day before. In the end, Gregor is mortally wounded by his father and dies confined in his room. These are examples of the extreme shadow of the metaphoric lens. But let's look at metaphor in ordinary life. In the context of everyday life, how do metaphors shape the way we conceptualize and function in our world? Let's take the concept of time. How does metaphor shape the way we think and behave about time? To discover what metaphor provides the lens through which you conceptualize time, simply complete this sentence. Don't think about it. Just say what comes to you first. Time is blank. How did you complete the sentence? Did your sentence sound like time is money? You might have thought, well, I'm not sure I really believe time is money, but that's what I thought first. Fair enough. But much of the way we think about things tends to be automatic. In other words, we more often than not are unaware of the engines that drive our thinking. How does the metaphor time is money affect the way we speak, think, and act? Listen to the following sentences and ask yourself if this is the way you think and speak about time. These are sentences that refer to time. You're wasting your time on this. This equipment will save you hours. That accident cost me an hour. We're running out of time. We're short on time. We have to budget our time wisely. We have to spend our time wisely. He's living on borrowed time. He needs to pay his debt to society and serve his time. Within the lens of time is money, time becomes a limited resource and valuable commodity. This metaphorical understanding is particular to industrialized cultures. Not all cultures relate to time in this way. If you relate to time as money, why not ask if this metaphor is the healthiest way to relate to time? Try on another metaphor and see what happens. Time is a river, for instance. How would this change the way you think and speak about time, and ultimately, how you experience time? What is your metaphor for love? Let's find out. Complete the sentence. Love is blank. Were you tempted to use that old Pat Benatar title? Love is a battlefield. So tempting, isn't it? Which metaphor do you think fits your perception of love? Love is war. Love is madness. Love is magic. Love is a physical electromagnetic force. Here is how we can discover which metaphor is providing the lens through which we conceptualize and understand love, even if we think we understand love in one way, we often understand it in quite another way, and what reveals our true metaphor is the everyday language we use. So, do you speak of love this way? You have to fight for it. He pursued her. She won his heart. He won her hand. I'm gaining ground with her. He is proud of his many conquests. If this is familiar to you, you may be looking at love through the metaphorical lens of love is war. How about this? I'm crazy about her. She drives me out of my mind. He raves about her. I'm wild about him. He's insane about her. Does this sound familiar to you? If so, you may be relating to love through the metaphorical lens of love is madness. Let's look at some more. She cast a spell on me. I was spellbound. She had me hypnotized. He has me in a trance. I'm charmed. She is bewitching. Do these statements sound like things you say? If so, you may be relating to love through the metaphorical lens of love is magic. Here's another. There were sparks between us. They gravitated towards each other right away. My life revolves around him. There is such energy in their relationship. If these are the ways that you talk about love, you may be relating to love through the metaphorical lens of love is a physical electromagnetic force. So how do we tell our stories of our days, of our lives, and of our loves? Do the metaphors we use tell our best stories, our most authentic stories? Are they the best lenses through which to see and experience our world? Thanks for listening. If you'd like to share your story on StoryBridge, or purchase one of my books, or if you'd like help with writing your story, visit my website, pattiluciawrites.com. Thanks for listening.